Hi, everyone that's joining us now. Then again, we're going to take about 30 seconds and then we're going to begin just to let the room fill up. So welcome anyone that's joining today. We're with you in about 30 seconds. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Good to go. Lovely. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and welcome to our Kemio disinfection for the food industry. Today, you've got myself, Joshua Gledhill, Head of Sales for UK and Europe, and also Thomas Minter, Lead Account Manager for UK and Europe. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to start with the Kemio and its features and benefits. Then we're going to hand over to Tom, and he's going to tell you how Kemio is used in the food and beverage applications. He's then going to walk you through some of those applications, the parameters involved, and the value proposition of Kemio in those applications. And then we're going to hand back over to myself, and I'm going to talk you through some of the science behind our lovely Kemio. So before we dive into the product and the applications, it's always important to note that nothing happens here at Palintest without our fantastic team. And I would love to introduce you to some of the team that make the things possible that we do. So we've got myself in sales, Joshua, and also Tom, who's with us today. In our customer service team, these are the guys who will process your orders, who will answer any questions that you have around lead times or anything to do with your order. That's led by Abetta, and she's supported by Anita Lentini. And then finally, we have our awesome colleagues in technical support. Now, these are technical experts. They will help you with any product, any application question that you've got. If you have any issues with anything, they'll solve it for you and get you back testing as soon as possible. And that's Adam and David. We always start any interactions that we have with our awesome end users and customers with just a reminder of our purpose here at Palintest, because it really is core to everything that we do. And that is that we exist to safeguard water for everyone every single day. We want to make sure that we are the simplest to do business with, that we innovate, which both benefits and delights our end users and customers, and that we have the operations to match our growth and our scale. Let's take a quick look at some of the products that we offer that aren't just the Kemio and the electrochemical range. Now, at Palintest, we offer a wide range of products, and we'll start with our photometers. These are the most traditional digital measurement way of testing for parameters in water. And we have a wide range of barometers from a wide range of photometers, easy for me to say, from our Lumiso Expert all the way down to our Lumiso handhelds. And they use light to measure a chemical reaction in the water. Sticking on the light theme, we have our turbimeters. Now, we've just introduced our Lumiso Turbidity Expert, which is doing really, really well. And this uses light to measure the cloudiness of water, which is called turbidity. And turbidity is a really essential water quality measurement in the water authority world. We also have our electrochemicals, this is our Kemio. So this is something we'll be diving into in quite a bit of depth today. So we'll touch upon that throughout the webinar. We have our portable lab kits. Now, this is marketed under our WagTech brand. Now, this is microbiological testing, and it's used mainly in the humanitarian space to test to make sure that water is safe for human consumption in disaster zones. We have our visual kits. Now, these are used to measure the chemical and physical parameters of water. They are our most basic offering. However, they are still fairly accurate and are widely used throughout a wide range of industries. And all of this, apart from our visual kits, can link to Palintest Connect, which is our data management software. And Palintest Connect allows you to access your data anywhere in the world in real time where you have an internet connection. All your results are stored once uploaded on there, and there are a variety of upload methods. It can be used by multi-site, so for food and beverage customers, if you are operating a multi-site operation, you can see centrally all of your results, all of your data anywhere, and that's instantly accessed and can be exportable and sent across. So if you do have any questions about Connect, please do drop them into the chat, or any other questions, that is, please drop them in the chat and we'll get those at the end of the session. Lovely. I'm going to hand over now to Tom, who's going to give us a whiz through Kemio and food and beverage.
Cheers, Josh. Slide, please. So, yeah, we're going to cover Kemio, so a bit about the instrument and then the features and benefits, and then also talk about some of the applications, specifically in the food and beverage industry. So firstly, Kemio uses electrochemical sensor technology to measure disinfection parameters. It's different to photometric, sort of more traditional photometric methods, but Josh, we have a good video later, and Josh will go into the science behind sort of how the instrument works. Features of the Kemio. So one of the main things is that it's portable, easy to use and accurate. Portability is a key thing, so it's quite a small instrument. So we're thinking about production lines in the food and beverage applications. It's important to be able to access critical control points with the instrument. So it's really useful to have an instrument that can move up and down a production line and can take your test from several key points, wherever that may be on the production line. The tests can be done in 60 seconds, so a lot of the parameters that we test for on the disinfection side of things can be done in as little as 60 seconds. So that that's obviously really key in terms of being able to get a quick, fast, accurate result straight away. So one of the really key features of Kemio is the suitability even in turbid or murky waters. So photometry can often be impacted by, if we do have water samples that, are quite murky or have some particles floating in there. Because the technology is different and it doesn't use light passing through the sample, Kemio is not affected by this. So thinking about food and beverage, a lot of the samples you will have bits in there. If you're washing salad, for example, there might be soil particles, that sort of thing. So this is really where Kemio comes into its own in this industry, because it's not affected by turbid samples. So that's really good. The other thing we have on the Kemio and our Lumiso Expert, I should add, is on-screen test instructions. Now, this is vital because there's a lot of science going on behind in the background of the instrument. A lot of clever stuff goes on to make sure the test can operate how it does. But with the on-screen test instructions, the operators don't need to know all that. They just need to be able to follow the test, the instructions on the instrument, and follow the test through to completion. This is great for sort of reducing operational error. So if we think back to photometric methods, they can often be sort of measuring of reagents, that sort of thing. With Kemio, there is none of that. It's a sensor that goes in, the operator closes the lid, and that the test will carry out from there. So it really does reduce potential for operational error, and also training costs, because it's so simple to use. If there's any environments where there's quite high staff turnover, or you've got people coming on and off shift a lot of the time, the on-screen instructions really come into the run in those sort of applications. And then, of course, we've got Connect, which Josh has already touched on. This is really important for the compliance side of things, so data integrity, ensuring that everything is traceable. So the results can be uploaded to a cloud platform. Anyone can then go and access that data. If you need a compliance trail to see when, where, and by who the tests have been done by, that can all be monitored in Connect. And of course, the results are also stored on the instrument. And one key thing to note is that the tests can't be edited and can't be deleted, which we think is really important for for data integrity. So yeah, in terms of the parameters on the disinfection side, we have chlorine, 3 in total, chlorine dioxide, peracetic acid, chloride, and bromine. These are the most common ones used in the food and beverage industry. And disinfectants are generally sort of used in the food and beverage industry to ensure that harmful bacteria are killed off before the end product reaches the customer. So yeah, really important that they're used. Okie dokie, so we've got 4 sort of key sectors where Kemio is used. We're going to talk in a little bit more detail about these sectors in a moment, but I just wanted to quickly go through them. So we've got post-harvest, which is where salad potentially coming in on the production line will then be washed in disinfected water. We've got poultry and meat processing. Again, disinfectant used to wash the equipment used, and in some countries as well, actually wash the produce as well. Food logistics, so this is sort of the crates that carry the food all around the country. Again, they need to be disinfected for harmful bacteria that could sort of leach onto the produce and cause issues with the end user. And then beverage and bottling. I think one key thing to highlight here is that Kemio, across all these applications, is used the same way. It's testing the disinfection levels being used to ensure that they're in the correct ranges. Okey-dokey. So how is Kemio used? I'm going to talk you through very simply how a test is done, because Josh is going to go into a little bit more detail in that shortly. But firstly, I just wanted to highlight that our Kemio disinfection instrument in these applications is typically used as a secondary application alongside an online or inline chemical dosing system. So it'll be used to verify that the dosing system has correctly dosed the disinfectants at the right level. So that's sort of, how it's generally used in these applications. So a test, it's really simple. So each disinfectant, each parameter, so chlorine, peracetic acid, will have its own sensor. This is input into the instrument. The operator doing the test will then take a sample and then basically close the lid, and the test will carry out in 60 seconds from there.
Simple.
Yeah, and again, going back to the industries that this is in, so post-harvest production, bottling, this allows the operator to adjust concentration of the disinfectant in use and get real-time results to ensure that that is at the right level for their standard operating procedure, which is really important. Probably one of the most important things is sort of operational downtime. To be able to get that result and change the dosing level in real time is really important. Okie dokie, so this is a process map for a post-harvest production. They don't all look exactly the same, but from our experience, this is sort of generally what you will see. So the salad will come onto the production line, and will then go through the wash water. This will be where the inline monitoring system will be, constantly checking the level of the disinfectant that's in use. And our Kemio will come into it at this stage, where an operator will take a sample from the wash water and verify that the level is in line with the dosing system, and then make adjustments from there. One key thing in this area where Kemio is really useful is that it's a no glass instrument. The majority of production lines we've ever been to are no glass environment, so that is really useful for this application. And the parameters we generally see tested in here is free and total chlorine, free chlorine, and peracetic acid. So we've got a process map for poultry. So washing can occur at various stages of the production cycle, and depending on regulations of each country. So what we found is that this will vary quite a lot between, the UK and Europe, and over in America, for example, where they'll actually wash the full produce rather than just the sort of equipment use. So most processing plants apply disinfectants during equipment spraying, carcass washing, which would sort of be in America, reprocessing, chilling, and post-chill treatment. Again, exactly the same as in post-harvest production, Kemio will be used to ensure that those disinfectant levels are correct for the applications that they're used for. And we typically see peracetic acid, chlorine, and chlorine dioxide. So food logistics, I'm sure everyone's seen the crates used by the supermarkets to move produce up and down the country within the supermarkets themselves. That's really important that they are disinfected correctly, because obviously harmful bacteria from the food can potentially leach out onto those, and then if they're reused, could end up causing a food-related incident. So disinfectants used to clean those, and Kemio is used to ensure that the disinfectant levels are correct for for the cleaning process. What's important to note is this is a continuous cycle, so those crates will be reused and reused and reused. So yeah, really important to get the disinfection levels correct there. And then finally, we've got a process map for bottling. So disinfectants are tested during equipment spraying, product contact services, and post-fill sanitations for CAF lines and CIP. Testing is performed throughout the day and multiple critical control points to ensure consistent hygiene and compliance. One thing to point out that is, the disinfectant levels need to be correct in all of these applications to ensure that the actual end product tastes correctly and is nice for the customer to consume. So often across these applications, there'll be a level that you don't want to go above and don't want to go below. And again, that's where Kemio comes in. And typically we see peracetic acid, chlorine and chlorine dioxide again in this application. I'll hand over to Josh, who's going to go through the science behind the Kemio instrument.
Thank you so much, Tom. So as Tom has shown, there's a variety of ways that Kemio can be used across a variety of applications. And whilst it is super easy and simple to use, I think Tom showed you in 3 steps. There's preparation, which is inserting the sample, sampling itself, which is scooping the sample out, and then closing the lid. We just wanted to talk you through some of the science behind that. Now, I want to be clear that the operator needs to not be aware of this. They don't need to understand it, but it is kind of key for us that are interested to have a little bit of a knowledge around how it works. So how does Kemio disinfection work? Simply, you take your water sample, as I just articulated, you add a sensor, you add the Kemio reading, and that will give you the water quality parameter, the testing information that you need for whatever you're looking for. Now, when we talk about sensors in the Kemio sense, we talk about it specifically as a disposable strip that's pre-dosed with the reagents. Now, that's really clear to understand because there are a multitude of sensors out there. There are reusable ones, there are electronic ones, etc., etc. When we talk about a sensor with Kemio, it's a small disposable strip that is pre-dosed with some reagent. Now, how does this sensor work? It takes an electrochemical reaction, so whatever's dosed on that particular reagent, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail in a second, at the sensor surface, and then that sensor surface sends a signal up to the Kemio reading itself, and that converts it to a parameter reading. So here we're going to look at peracetic acid and the sensor that's used to measure for that. Now, at the top of the screen, you can see a diagram for the sensor. Now, on the left-hand side of this, you can see that there's quite a lot of different electrodes. We've got the working electrodes, reference electrodes, and counter electrodes. Now, if you remember, the reason it has electrodes on there is because this uses an electrochemical method of measuring PAM. Then we've got some conductive tracks that send a signal up all the way up to those little piano keys at the top, and this is the instrument interface, and this is how the sensor communicates with the actual Kemio itself when you plug in. Now, for peracetic acid specifically, a polymer layer is coated onto the electrode, and that contains potassium iodide, Ki, which dissociates into potassium and iodide ions. These iodide ions then react with any PAM molecules present in the sample to produce an oxidized iodide. So that's the chemical reaction that's still happening, remember, because there is a reagent dosed onto our electrodes, onto our sensors. On the flip side, electrochemical reaction happens at the same time. So the triiodide ion diffuses towards the electrode surface, so towards those little strips on the left, which is poised at a negative potential. So it's held at negative potential. When close enough, electrons flow between the triiodide ion, reducing it back to iodide. And this flow of electron is measured as an electrical current, and it's used to calculate the concentration of PA or whatever parameter you look in the sample solution. So pretty complex stuff, and it's taken a whole team of PhDs here at Palintest to develop this sensor technology, which is unique to Palintest. And it's worth noting that we do develop all the technologies here at Palintest HQ, as well as manufacture everything here at Palintest HQ in the UK as well. So we're going to take a look now at a little video that kind of articulates that probably a little bit better than I can. So you can see now the sensors in the Kemio, the lid's been closed, and that's the end of the operator's interaction for this stage. We're going to take a little look inside the sample chamber, and you'll now see what I've just articulated in a graphical form. So there's the lovely potassium iodide interacting with the PAA. That's oxidizing. From here, you can see the electrochemical visualized here. So the electrodes are now reached the surface, and this is producing an electric current. And then that electric current is measured over time, and you'll see that in a lovely graph in a second. So we measure the current over time, and it's this current over time that we use to infer PAA concentration. All this happens inside the Kemio itself. So not only does the electrochemical reaction happen, but the mass behind that, using that calibration curve that you see there, that all happens within the Kemio, and you get a simple result in milligrams per litre, or whatever ppm or ppb, whatever measurement you're using on the screen. In just 60 seconds. So as Tom articulated, on the Kemio disinfectant, we offer 3 in total: chlorine, bromine, chlorine dioxide, chlorite, and peracetic acid. And on this screen here, you can see some of the ranges that we offer. So we go down to as low as, on chlorine specifically, 0.02 milligrams per litre. So potentially once you've washed and disinfected the salad or the fruit, and you're wanting to rinse that to remove any chlorine, you might want to make sure there is a really low level or an absence of chlorine. So these sensors here would be really useful for that. and all the way up to 500 milligrams per litre for total chlorine, which is really, really high concentration, or 100 milligrams per litre for free chlorine. Now, this is probably used in the earlier stage of disinfection of some of those processes that Tom talked you through. And this is really cool because if you think of something like a photometer, these levels of high chlorine measurements just aren't possible without either a dilution step or some extra sample preparation steps because of the nature of DPD and its sensitivity to high level chlorines. With the Kemio, there are no extra sample preparation steps included to measure at those high levels, which is really, really cool. Awesome. So thank you so much for listening to us talk around Kemio and food and beverage there. We're now going to take a quick look at the chat, so just bear with us to see if there are any questions, and we'll try and answer those as best as we can. Oh, looks like there are no questions in the chat, which means we've hopefully answered everything. We're going to hang around for a few more minutes. Oh, we've got one coming there. Thank you so much. A copy of the presentation, absolutely. So the presentations can be sent out afterwards. We've got all your information as you signed up for the webinar, so we will send out any information. And if you do have any further questions, you are more than welcome to email us at sales@palintest.co.uk, or any of your contacts out there. We have a question here as well. Does the meter need to be periodically serviced, and where? Great question. Yes, we highly recommend that our meters are calibrated and serviced annually, so that's once a year. And this is to make sure that there's no instrument drift, that everything is performing as it should. As we know in the food and beverage space, these production lines can be pretty intense and tough environments. So absolutely, we want to make sure that you have that serviced annually. Where can you get it serviced? If you're based in the UK, you can have it serviced directly with us, Palintest, and you can please reach out to our colleagues in the customer service team, and they'll help you that. If you're based within the EU, we have a variety of authorised service partners, and I'm pleased to see that some of our authorised service partners have joined the call today. Lab Process in Spain, Comatas of Italy. They can also help you out there. Please reach out to those guys or direct to us, and we'll direct you to the best place.
We also have check standards for the instrument as well.
Yes,
so I think there's another question there back from Lawrence. So this will allow you to, validate your instrument from day to day, just to confirm that the instrument's working within calibration.
Yep.
And obviously, if there's any problems from there, then you can reach out to our technical support team. But that's how you can confirm day to day that your instrument is working, as it should be.
Awesome. We have a question here. The lifespan of the contact pads. Great question. Now, this entirely depends on the nature of the application. So if you're using something like peracetic acid, which is pretty grisly, that could wear down the contact pads, that gold coating that's on the contact pads pretty quickly. Now, if we think back to the servicing question I've just answered, we will replace those contact pads as standard in a service. So we would expect them to last a year between those services. However, a huge caveat, that depends on the nature of your application. But yes, we'll be replacing every single service, and we would expect them to last between those two services. However, if you're using some pretty aggressive disinfectants, it could be a little bit shorter. Please do get in touch with me to help you out if they do wear out. How scalable is Connect for organisations with multiple testing sites? Really great question. So very, very scalable. So if you use our corporate package, which is our top level package for Palintest Connect, you can have multiple sites on there. So if you've got 30 sites, you can have up to 30, or even more, 30 sites in there with multiple users as well. And those users can be leveled depending on their job role. So if you've got someone that's an operator, they can have a login to upload results. If you've got someone that's a quality assurance manager, they can see results across a variety of sites. And if you've got someone that's very, very senior, they can see every single site by every single operator. So you can scale access across multiple sites. So super scalable, very, very simple with multiple users.
You can set alerts and things like that as well.
Yes,
so
alerts, yeah.
If if there was a fail on a test, you can set so the ops manager gets that alert to confirm that. So there's all sorts you can do then. I think if anyone is interested in Connect, we'd have to do a demo on how that all looks.
Absolutely. If the values are getting above as reference standards values, what would we need to do? So in this instance, we would first of all ask you to gently clean the contact pads of the Kemio with some isopropyl alcohol, something like that. Make sure that the sample is appropriate, so redo that. Use a fresh batch of sensors and then redo the test. If that isn't working, we recommend that you get in touch with our technical support team who will help you. It probably would mean that the instrument would need to come back to Palintest or our authorised service partners for a service and calibration. First instance, do those quick clean checks, best practices, contact technical support, and then send in for a service if it can't be resolved for that one. What else do we have on there?
Shelf life.
Shelf life and sensors and storage conditions. So the shelf life, I think it varies across different
It
types of
does,
sensors.
yeah. So we can send that out off the back of the presentation, but it does vary.
Typically around 5 years. The shelf life. Storage conditions: clean, dry, out of humidity, out of direct light. Try and keep them at room temperature for those storage of those sensors. And if there is any tears in the sensor packaging, please don't use the sensor. Make sure the sensor packaging is intact. Are we seeing the possibility where we only need to make use of just as your sensors without using alongside the SPT reagent tablets? So again, it depends on the parameter that you're testing for. So for some parameters, yes. For some parameters where it requires it, you will need to use the reagents that are supplied. I can't think in disinfectant if there are any that need it.
It's chlorite you need.
Chlorite,
yeah.
you need it for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom, for getting that. So for chlorite, you will still need to use that. Of course, our team of scientists are always looking at how we can make that better without those sample preparation steps. But for the vast majority, you wouldn't need to use them. So, any other questions going in there? No. Is there anyone that feels like the question hasn't been answered? We're more than happy to whiz over that again. Just give you a second. And if not, if you want some more information, please do reach out to us at Palintest. Ammonium monochloramine test can be done. Great question. Yes, ammonium monochloramine has just launched. We are in the trial stages of this with a select few customers. But yes, we will very, very shortly be adding monochloramine and ammonia to our wider range of Palintest products. They are currently live, so please do get in touch with us for more information if you'd like to take part in a trial or a demo. Absolutely. Are the sensors reusable? Absolutely not.
No, it's a one-time use. So once the sensors are being used for a test, then you would just dispose that just in the normal waste. So yeah, and also worth pointing out that if you've touched the sensor, contact pads or anything like that, we would always recommend using a new sensor because that might affect your result there.
Yes. But if you or any of your end users are interested in a little bit more product training, please again do reach out to us. We can provide that in a variety of forms as well. That covers things like best practices of the Kemio. Whilst it is super simple to use, there are a couple of practices that make your results more reliable and accurate.
Real?
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We'll be following up with you all shortly. And as again, if you do have any questions after this, please do reach out to us. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.